Hi. Okay. I'm on the other side of the map today because in my last video, we went over kind of like the broader sense of New Orleans areas and neighborhoods. And then we did a little bit deeper dive into the general uptown area and broke that down into the individual neighborhoods in uptown. I think after all of this is done, I'm definitely going to go back into and make a video for each individual neighborhood. But right now, we're moving right along and giving kind of an overview of areas. So, in my last video, we were uptown, and so today I'm just gonna march a little bit further downriver. It's funny because we don't necessarily call the furthest part of down the river downtown. We call downtown sort of like the central business district, which is actually in the more in the middle of things than downtown. But New Orleans has its own way of doing everything. So um, we are going to go over today the central business district, French Quarter, Treme, Marigny, St. Claude, Bywater areas, St. Roch. And it's funny because, in uptown, we've got 15 individual neighborhoods in what we generally refer to as uptown. And all of these neighborhoods that we're going to go over today, we don't have a general area for them. We just call them by their neighborhoods. And so, you're not, I'm going to go over downtown today. That's really just like one neighborhood. So it's a little bit unique, but it is who we are. So if we're just going to march downriver, I think that's the best way to do it. The first one you'll see right above the Central City and Lower Garden District is the Central Business District. And honestly, it's exactly as it sounds. It is where the majority of our skyscrapers are. Louisiana has this crazy rule from Huey P. Long when he was governor that you can't build higher than the state capitol, which is not very tall. And so we don't necessarily have any true skyscrapers, but this is where our tall buildings are and where a lot of our offices are located. A lot of our office towers are located in the central business district. As far as housing goes, it's only condos and apartments. And again, our condo buildings are not that tall either. You're looking at maybe 5 or 6 stories for the majority of them. We also, it's not on this map, but we differentiate between the warehouse district and the central business district. They're next to each other. They're in the same little outline that's on this map that's showing here. But the warehouse district used to be a lot of warehouses. They would come to the port in New Orleans and unload and have things in those warehouses. But as far as living goes in the CBD and warehouse district, it's going to be condo centric. And every condo building has its own very unique styles, architectural features, historical features, amenities. Some of them have pools, some of them have gyms, some of them have parking, some don't. And cost in these can be anywhere from a $200,000 condo to a $2 million condo. For the most part, they're going to fall in that maybe like $300,000 to $500,000 range to get a nice place in the CBD. It's walkable, of course, but again, a lot of the businesses are going to close for business hours just because like that's the nature of the area. And then next we're going to go to the French Quarter. I don't think I need to do a ton of explaining about the French Quarter, but I will. It is probably the most historically recognizable place in New Orleans. You've seen it the most, but again, as far as residential goes in the French Quarter, it's definitely only condos. There are certain streets towards closer to Elysian Fields Avenue and closer towards the Marigny, the next neighborhood that you see on that map, where there are uh, doubles and single family homes. But for the most part, in the French Quarter, it's going to be condos. They are old. They got problems. A lot of them have been renovated and are nice, but again, there's a lot of code enforcement there to maintain the integrity of the history in the French Quarter. A few years ago, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I'm not exactly sure on those numbers right now, but short-term rentals were completely banned in the French Quarter. And, there's two sides to that. There's definitely some pros, but there's also some cons. But when that happened, pricing tanked in the French Quarter, and we've got condos that have been on the market for years. That is turning around. People are starting to buy them again for second homes and to live there. But for a while, the marketability of a property in the French Quarter really was non-existent. But thankfully, that has turned. It's a great place for second home. It's a great place to live. If I didn't have 3 kids, I would love to live there for a year or so. Again, you've got all the music, you've got the nightlife, you've got the restaurants. But again, you're going to get mixed up into heavy, heavy tourism in the French Quarter. And then as we go further down the river, we're going to come to the Marigny neighborhood. It's right there. It's right on the other side of the French Quarter. So it still has a lot of what you think about the French Quarter. It's got a lot of music venues there. We've got Frenchman Street in the Marigny, which has kind of been known as like the locals Bourbon Street, which not at all, because it's music venues. We've got a lot of local bands that play there. As far as what the homes look like in the Marigny, they are super, super colorful, very historic architecturally. We've got kind of a bohemian atmosphere in the Marigny. This was developed in the early 1800s by Bernard de Marigny, and it's saying it's one of the first suburbs of New Orleans, which is really cool. The property types are going to be some single families, but for the most part in the Marigny, you're going to get shotguns, which is single family, a shotgun home, or Creole cottages that were doubles. A lot of this has been redeveloped into single families over time. If we're thinking about differences in neighborhoods for, say, the Marigny and pretty much like all of the rest of the neighborhoods I'm going to talk about today compared to some of the areas in Uptown, the homes in Uptown are a little bit farther apart. They definitely have suburban feel. They're definitely closer together. You're not getting huge acreage anywhere in New Orleans. But in the Marigny and further downriver, all of these neighborhoods, they're a lot more urban. They're a lot closer together. Some of them even share walls. They're super, super colorful, but that also means they're very walkable. There's going to be a lot of restaurants, a lot of music, a lot of things to do. I love driving around in the Marigny and the Bywater just because it's so funky and fun to look at. So we're going to move on to the Bywater. Very similar to the Marigny, but you will see it's this weird square, and it is a sliver of streets that are by the water. Again, it's a unique blend of residential and commercial. There are industrial spaces in the Bywater. We've got Crescent Park, which is it's got this cool rusty bridge that goes over this water. You've got beautiful views of the river. The Bywater District is listed on the National Register of Historic Places. It's very strong community, and it is really, really in the past, like 10 to 15 years, come up. Lots of renovations there, lots of people moving to the Bywater. It's a funky bohemian type atmosphere. Again, lots of walkability, lots of very community feeling in these areas because you are so close to each other. Everywhere you go in New Orleans is going to have a great food scene, a lot of walkability. The Bywater and the Marigny are a lot more centric for like our queer community. LGBTQ plus has a stronger concentration in these areas. It's very welcoming for that community, which is wonderful. And then we will talk about St. Claude. It's very similar to these other neighborhoods that we're talking about. St. Claude has had a little bit of a slower resurgence. They are having lots of renovations there. It's a little less walkable than the Marigny and Bywater. It's got St. Claude Avenue that runs right through it, which is a large avenue. We've got St. Roch. Oh no, that's in the other neighborhood. But yeah, in St. Claude, you can still get a great deal. It's still very urban. It's still very vibrant. It's still very colorful. There are some very historic lounges and music venues in St. Claude. It's I don't want to say grungy, but it's definitely got more of like an edgy vibe than definitely Uptown. But the Marigny and Bywater all kind of have that vibe. We are going to talk about St. Roch next. It's very similar to St. Claude. It says it was originally called Faubourg Franklin, and it was renamed after the yellow fever epidemic in honor of St. Roch, the patron saint of those afflicted with the plague. It was this development of this neighborhood was tied to the Pontchartrain Railroad in the 1830s. So been around for a long time. Again, it's got tons of stuff to see, cool cemeteries to tour. There's the St. Roch Market, which is a popular food hall. There's a rock climbing place. Lots of funky little shops, and again, music, food venues, parks, all things like that. The last neighborhood we're going to talk about today, we're going to skip over the 7th Ward. I think that needs maybe a little bit more time. They all do, and we're going to get there. We're going to talk about the Treme today, which if you're a fan of New Orleans at all, you've heard of the Treme. It is the oldest African-American neighborhood in the United States. It's located adjacent to the French Quarter in New Orleans. It is very historically significant, known for its rich culture, music, contributions to the development of jazz. Some say jazz was created in the Treme. It played a crucial role in the lives of free people of color, and those who gained their freedom, allowing them to acquire property and build this vibrant community. Treme is known for deep-rooted cultural traditions. This is where you're going to see the Mardi Gras Indians come. This is where you're going to see Super Sunday. This is where you're going to see second lines. This is considered the birthplace of jazz, and so it still maintains so many very rich cultural traditions. And for a while there, it did maybe fall a little bit, but it's also had a wonderful resurgence. People are moving back into the Treme, building up, sustainability for this neighborhood with restaurants and everything you need to build community and live a life in New Orleans. And this video is pushing the limits here, so we're going to stop there. Definitely going to go into a deeper dive into each of these neighborhoods at a later time.